If you're still running a YouTube channel the same way that you did a year ago, then you're falling behind. Not because you're bad at what you do, but because the rules of the game have changed. Now, a one-man team can efficiently produce high quality, low cost content very fast. I'm talking about 3 hours and $100 to produce a single video that will then return thousands. I've done this multiple times in multiple niches, so listen in, because this is a big deal. Now let's get one thing straight before we get stuck in, because there's only one truly creative job to this entire process, and it's why this strategy works so well. That creative job is coming up with a good video idea. If the idea is bad, there's very little that will save it. As we say in the UK, you can't polish a turd. Ideas are extremely relative to your channel, goals and audience. Ideas are a whole video of their own, so I'll go deeper on that in the future, but for the purpose of this video, I'm going to assume that you know who your audience is and what your video is about. Everything else becomes systems, filters and rules that are designed to reduce cognitive load and increase output at the same time. You can use other AI models to do this instead, but for each of these 5 AI systems that follow, I've kept them separate as ChatGPT threads. You'll see why as we go through them. Now, I'll walk you through them and show you how I use them to turn one good idea into a full video extremely fast, repeatably, and also avoid burnout in the process. Essentially, this is the difference between being a creator and behaving like an operator. So once the idea is locked in, the very first thing that I work on is the title, because if I can't present that idea in a clear, simple, systematic way that my audience instantly understands, I don't waste my time doing anything else. I believe the most efficient way to build anything is to only do what works and nothing else. If the title doesn't earn the click, the video doesn't exist. It's as simple as that. It's also why I keep my title system as a separate thread inside ChatGPT. Now, before I generate a title, I preload the thread with 2 things: the channel's viewer profile and the idea of the video. The AI thread that I run then runs that idea through a fixed set of rules and gives me some title variations to choose from. Rules like a maximum of 55 chars so that the full message is visible on mobile, one clear, simple idea with no stacking benefits and no confusion, proven formats only like listicles, strategies or process videos. It's good to preload some examples in advance, and the title must connect to something the viewer actually cares about. Money, scale, time, leverage are all examples. At least one version should trigger their psychology: urgency, relevance, or fear of falling behind. So let me show you what this looks like in a practice with this particular thread. I've briefly made up this situation for example's sake. So let's imagine that we're making a video for a course creator. The viewer profile might look something like this. The video's concept might be some effective ways to scale their business without hiring a team. I drop the idea into my title system thread as a 1-paragraph explanation. I'm not asking it to be clever, I'm just asking it to run the rules. Without thinking, what comes back is 10 different title variations that fit the audience and the video's goal. This is the difference. We've gone from a large amount of time being creative to full control with a workable output that's been proven before and quickly. But the second system is where the system really starts to accelerate. The second AI system I run is the thumbnail system, and just like the title, this lives in its own separate ChatGPT thread with a viewer profile preloaded and a fixed set of rules, along with some successful thumbnails examples from before. To be blunt here, thumbnails aren't about fancy colours or slick designs. The primary purpose is to grab the viewer's attention and make them read the title. The trick is to build the whole GPT so it's got the existing formats that already work for this particular audience, instead of designing from scratch every single time. This GPT filters the idea through a set of predetermined rules, like first, have one clear message with a maximum of 4 elements. If the thumbnail tries to say too many things, it fails. Clarity and volume always beats cleverness. Second, mobile first design, because if it doesn't work small, it doesn't work at all. A simple layout, it needs to be instantly readable, and a little curiosity and direct alignment is all that's needed. Third, contrast and curiosity over beauty. This isn't an art class. I've worked with a lot, but so many thumbnail designers just can't seem to grasp this. The job is attention, not aesthetics. Now, fourth, no repeat information. The thumbnail must add to the title or force the viewer to read it. There are only 1 or 2 exceptions, but 99% of the time it's a mistake. Sixth, short language is ideal. 2, 3 or 4 words max. Typically, we don't want the viewer to have to read and think too much. Again, there are exceptions, but this is a system for repetition. And then seventh, the language should match the viewer. It's common sense, I hope. If you're targeting retirees for financial services, the tone and visuals should be different to a channel targeting youngsters for something else. Now, there's more that can be preloaded here, but you should get the point. This system is designed to move fast. The more rules and examples I preload into the thread, the closer I get to perfection. So I take this title from system 1 and then drop it directly into this thread with system 2. And after a little refining, within minutes, I've got a set of thumbnail directions that are clear and consistent and complement the title. I don't waste time on perfection, color grading or design. I'm aiming for repeatable leverage that saves a huge amount of time during the creation process. At this point, it takes about 20 minutes to turn an idea into a solid title and thumbnail combination. The final filter though is when the thumbnail is complete. I ask one question. Would this stop me scrolling if it wasn't my video and I was the target viewer? If the answer isn't yes, I either request more variations from the GPT thread or I bin it and move on to the next idea. Assuming I think it's good, I then move on to the next bottleneck and the system that solves it. AI system number 3. The hook system is designed to stop a great idea dying in the first 30 seconds. Think of a video's hook as the bridge of commitment between the viewer's curiosity and the intent and then hanging around. So many people get this wrong. Crafting a solid hook can take longer than manually writing a great title and designing a thumbnail from scratch. And it's also why it's got its own GPT system. The viewer profile and set of rules are preloaded just like before, and to give you an idea, they should go something like this. First, the hook must match the click. If the title promised leverage, the first line talks about leverage. If the thumbnail promised urgency, the first line talks about urgency. No clickbait, ever. Second, lead with the problem, not the process. Never start with, in this video, I'm going to show you. Always start with the problem or issue they already feel emotionally. Third, define one clear enemy. In our example, it might be randomness, burnout, or algorithm roulette. If there's no enemy, there's no story that follows. Fourth, outcome before explanation. Tell them what changes for them first. The how comes later on in the video. Fifth, no warm-ups, no greetings, no long channel intros or 15-second logo segments. Assume the viewer's time is precious. Respect it. Sixth, keep it concise and meaningful, ideally under 30 seconds. If your opening hook doesn't make a meaningful connection with the viewer, they aren't going to hang around. Now, obviously, this isn't a fixed set of rules for every single channel. I'm just explaining how this should be done. Each channel and audience data is unique, so if you want bespoke help with your channel, there's a link in the description down below. Now, let me show you how this works in practice with our example, because we've already got our title and thumbnail locked in from the first 2 systems. So I drop that straight into my hook system number 3 and run the rules. What comes back isn't one intro, it's a set of tested opening angles. One might lead with a pain point like this, and another might have an outcome that they crave like this. Now, I've found that this thread rarely produces the finished result on its first pass. However, most of the time it produces something close and removes the need to think too much. So now we're cooking here. The thumbnail gets their attention, then makes them read the title piques their interest, and the hook should get them committed to watch some more. But using these systems, once they're set up, it should have taken the operator no more than an hour at this point to create. The next system is the most underrated of all of them, so give it the attention that it deserves. Beyond the first 3 systems we've already covered, this matters the most. It's where the vast majority go wrong. The instinct is to rush ahead and start writing. My advice is to do the complete opposite. Slow down here, because if you get this system dialed in, 3 things happen immediately. Viewer satisfaction goes up, retention increases, and the following step is so much easier. If you do it right, the time it takes to draft your video will be cut in half. The phrase measure twice, cut once immediately springs to mind here. Now, just like the others, the system lives in its own chat and its job is simple. Help you organize your thinking and turn it into the most effective video structure possible, while avoiding all the mistakes that quietly kill retention. You know the ones: a messy structure with no clear direction, no real payoff for the viewer, too much padding, rambling or waffle, and worst of all, no rehooks or open loops. So once attention drops, it never comes back. The system exists to remove all of that whilst organising your thoughts into a deliberate, simple and clear path for the viewer to follow. Now, here are a few of the rules that I would use in this particular system. First, every video follows a fixed storytelling format. That might be hook, setup, twist, payoff and resolution, or something like the 3-act structure or the hero's journey. The exact model you use can change, but the point here is this: the structure is intentional, not accidental. Second, problem, then resolution. Each point flows in a logical order. You never reveal future answers early. The rhythm is simple: present the problem, deliver the solution, and then move on, much like I have in this video. Third, one job per section. If a section tries to do too many things, it creates confusion. Fourth, make sure there's plenty of high and low points. Tension rises with the problem, relief comes with resolution. Place them deliberately to keep viewers watching. Fifth, teach in blocks, not streams. Clear segments always beat long monologues. Sixth, design for retention, not ego. If something's clever but it slows the pace, get rid of it. Long segments about how great you are don't help. Viewers don't really care anyway. Now, let me show you how this works with our example. We've already built a title, thumbnail and hook for a course creator who wants to scale without hiring. So I drop that straight into my structure system thread. Hit voice notation and spill my thoughts. What I want this video to achieve and how I want it to flow. What comes back is a clear structure. The hook calls out a real problem for them, which is thinking you need a team to scale. The setup builds the tension, maybe cost, complexity, managing a team. The twist is then the missing truth. Scaling is about systems. You don't need a bigger team most of the time. And then it explains that AI is the solution for support, content and operations. The climax is an example of the solution delivering their desired outcome. The whole thing takes minutes to generate. I then spend another 30 to 40 minutes refining it into the smoothest possible flow. All in, at this point, the entire process has taken about an hour and a half. In a moment, I'm going to show you a very clear, explosive example where I first started using this process. But before that, let's look at the fifth and final system to maximize results. The final system removes the last and biggest bottleneck in production: writing time. Not by trying to replace you, but by separating thinking from typing, because the goal here isn't to create the perfect script straight away. The goal is to kill the slowest part of the process, sitting and staring at that blank page and thinking. The system exists for one thing only: to produce a strong first draft. Fast. Nothing more. This time the chat thread is preloaded with a viewer profile and examples of my previous writing, so it already sounds like me. Next, I simply share the title, thumbnail and video structure from the previous 4 systems. This is why it's really important to get that structure right first time. From there, I dictate the ideal word count for each section and ask it to draft the script one section at a time. And in seconds, I've got a clean first draft. If it's not good enough, I don't fight the draft. I tighten the system rules until it is. The final hour or so is spent tidying up the whole thing and recording before I then pass it on to my editor, who has his own set of rules to follow. Now, if you want to see what's really possible with this system, check out this next video where I blew up a brand new YouTube channel to 3.4 million views in just 30 days. It's not luck, it's leverage. Check it out.